We're gonna call this meeting to order.
Yeah.
Join select board, personnel board, finance committee meeting for January 28th. All right, so first on the agenda, I think we have is the salary grid discussion. I can intro this, but we've been speaking, I think, collectively amongst our groups and some with our cross groups about some issues that we're having. I would call them blockers in terms of the salary grid. And I have organized them into kind of like short-term and long-term things. But I think the goal of this discussion is to kind of let everybody know what challenges we've been having and then put hopefully forth some action items we can take to move it forward. Can you just move on to the next slide? All right, so the current challenges we're having start with recruiting because some of our salary bands are not reflective of market rates for most positions, if not all positions. We have limited flexibility with the pay bands. For example, the building commissioner candidate was found, but we could not come to an agreement with the salary. And given the current bylaws and the pay bands, there really wasn't any mechanism to move forward. So that has still been unfulfilled. Currently, we're hiring people at the top of the pay band, leaving them no place to go. And the current classification of positions is non-existent. So moving on.
Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Back one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Current classification does that mean like there's a feeling that like roles maybe are classified at different letters?
Yeah.
Or
It's right. Do you want to kind of chime in here or like they're in the current classification of the positions is inconsistent. So like maybe if it's like a similar department level, they may not be like
Okay.
on the same band. So trying to kind of like, I think, clean up what it is, like looking at it holistically. It's kind of based more on people than the position. So that's kind of the current issue.
okay, got it.
Then we have some like long-term challenges, retention. I think this probably happens almost any place, but a lot of times new hires get paid more than people that have been here over the years. There's no flexibility to promote within. There's a undue stress on the current staff to try, because of unfulfilled positions, they might be doing the work of two people. There's no room for growth as we're hiring at the top of the pay bands to start. We have limited negotiating power. And then because of the pay bands and even maybe the position descriptions, we're attracting underqualified applicants. From a budget perspective, we do have to account for salaries rising. This is kind of a supply and demand issue. If there's a lot of people who are not getting into government or are underqualified, then the pool is limited and they have the advantage. And turnover and recruiting costs more than retention. We've lost time and money due to lack of personnel. And there might be gaps in this slide too, but just wanted to outline the various roles too for like where everyone plays into this. As a select board, we have kind of oversight of town operations and try to identify issues where we need to step in to help run things efficiently and smoothly. Ultimately, we'll vote to adopt the salary grid of whatever may or may not be proposed. Personnel board, you suggest changes to the pay band. Sorry, typo. Based on data and research. They will vote to adopt the salary grid. Finance committee has the implications of the situation on the town budget, long-term forecasting, and human resources and town administrator will provide like guidance, expertise, and resources. Can you hit the next slide?
Is there any like one owner of the salary?
So
grid?
yes, it's the personnel board according to the bylaws.
So right now, that's what we were meeting to discuss the bylaws, the personnel board. And the personnel board has the responsibility for the administration of the classification plan and shall be authorized to complete studies of new positions and make allocations to existing classes, establish a new class of positions, or delete a class of positions. Provide for studies of existing positions when there has been a substantial change in the duties and responsibilities which justify consideration of possible reclassification, conduct periodic studies to ensure the classification remains uniform and current, and develop procedures to determine the proper classification of each position and classified positions. That is part of the personnel bylaws.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So if there was a proposal to change classifications or to change the grid itself, it should come from you all. Or maybe you all kind of take the first pass at it.
So in speaking with accountants, in town, we can reclassify a job, but without, from what we're told, without a special town meeting, we can't add
Yeah,
to the grid.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think, I'm imagining the personnel board bylaws were created prior to us having human resources as well.
Yeah.
So, so we're kind of leaning on now that we have a resource in terms of, the expertise, but so we are just trying to navigate roles as we're kind of like, we're trying to build the plane while we're flying it with that. But obviously, Ray is starting to do research on this, hoping to inform it, unless your group is planning on doing the research on your own. So I guess that's what we're trying to probably figure out what.
I mean,
That
obviously,
means.
the personnel board would work in conjunction with the HR.
Okay, great.
I mean, right.
I mean, that makes logical sense, but anyway.
The bylaws I mean, whether or not it was before or after, it's either got to be changed or it is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's gotta be changed. At the end of the day, guys, we really need to evolve this town. I mean, we can't attract talent, good talent, to this town. I mean, how long has all these positions been up? I mean, we have a problem recruiting people, and it takes us way too long to fill them. We've got to do something as teams to get this, to make this better.
Yeah.
Right. And
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And to hire somebody on the top of the salary scale. I mean.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for us. It's hard for them.
60%.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for even the HR position, it took us 8 or 9 months to you just get kind of organized, and then it just takes a while.
Sounds
And
like
we're
we're all saying the same thing.
yeah. So I think hopefully we can just maybe agree on I think next steps and
Julie, you were at a personnel board meeting a month or so ago
Mhm.
and gave us some perspective of some SMEs, some subject matter experts in the space that are consulting, and talked a
Yeah.
little bit about the feedback to us as a town and their unwillingness to potentially roll up their sleeves and support necessarily some positions until we almost get our own house in order. Can you speak a little bit to that, just to give perspective
yeah.
on not opinions of people that sit in these chairs, but people that do this and represent other communities, to say we would love to help you, but we actually think our win rates would take a hit if we were to help you, because there's some things we would suggest you get in order first. So I think that's important context.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe, Michael, you can talk about the treasure collector, because I didn't speak with them specifically, but in terms of the, town administrator, once Michael let us know he was not going to pursue another contract, I spoke with a consultant who had helped us find the assistant town administrator and has helped in other ways. But they kind of won't really work with us until we align our salaries with the market rates. So it's they not even their win rate. It certainly would take a hit because they probably would not be able to help us, but they are like kind of not willing to put in the time because they know that they will not be able to find the candidate we need at the salary we're offering. So when what they said to me was they would like to help, but we need to kind of get our house in order. And if we choose not to do that, then that's fine. Then we would just be on our own to try and source and recruit for a number of positions. But they are the people that they have a few town administrator positions open that they're trying to source. They're well connected in the community. They have a pulse of what the market is for this type of position. So I definitely value their advice. Yeah, one was the salary, and one was moving the town administrator off of the salary grid. I have since found out it on paper it looks like it's on the grid, but technically it is not. So we have cleared that one hurdle, which is a big one. But it is just kind of, aligning to and similar with the treasure collector when they were approached, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but they kind of said the same thing. Like, we don't think we're going to be able to source a candidate based on the current salary. And I think that having gone through that process, we still don't have a treasurer collector. The candidate pool was weak, and we were not able to hire. So now we've brought in a consultant to help with that, but it's a key position. So we do want to be able to maybe course correct that. There's obviously the benefits package as a whole is, what they sign up for, but if we can't get people to apply that are qualified, then we're just still stuck. We're just literally just kind of just stuck in a.
Julie, on
Yeah.
that one, the treasurer collector, and I'm not sure when it merged, but is there any appetite to separate that again? I'm not sure, like, again, I was on one of the search committees for it. I'm not sure how many there were, but when we merged you had the treasurer collector and then the deputy treasurer collector, and then the two clerks, if you will. It's still separate. You still have the treasurer, and then, Meg's the collector, and then she has a clerk and the other. So, would there be anything to separate again and see if you get somebody who would apply just to be the treasurer where you already have a collector? I don't know. I'm just throwing out another.
Yeah,
another
I mean,
idea.
I'm open to, and me personally, obviously open to any type
Yeah.
of like organizational changes, but I would probably rely on, the town administrator, HR, like if they felt like an organizational change was, I don't know if I'm qualified to.
Yeah,
say.
you're the chairman. That's why I dumped it on
Yes,
you.
I know. But I do, I mean, there are honestly some kind of wonky things I see in our organizational structure as a whole that I personally don't understand, that maybe it is worth looking, 3 years down the road to see, like, why does this person report to this? Like,
Right.
what does this make sense? Like, so I would be open to it, but there are some treasure collector positions out there. I think Winchendon has one open now. I think Lancaster has one open now. So it doesn't seem like it's too far-fetched, but I don't know, like, there's just not a lot of people going into municipal government.
And that's
So in 22, they did the
Sorry.
salary study, and they did have that position split. For treasurer, it was a grade G, and tax collector, it was an F. So I'm not,
so somewhere after that.
sounded like, I'm not sure when
I
it was.
don't, yeah. I think certainly, the salary studies are helpful. And then also too, I think the actual experience of like what we're, I don't know if it would have been different if we had a recruiter helping us. I don't know, just like we had the position open, we didn't have qualified candidates. We
Well, I mean, or the worst scenario was the bullet point that you had on there, which is we had a position, we had someone that wants the position. And because of the constraints and the guardrails of our system, over $10,000, we can't hire the person. So we can jump them up to the next level, but that's $30,000 more if we reclassify it. But we can't meet their demand of $10,000. And our town administrator doesn't have the ability to be like, well, okay, we'll meet you halfway, we'll give you 5. Can we get you in? Well, I can't, I have nowhere on this piece of paper where I can put you. So now we don't make the hire and it's in the wind, but we have someone who wants to be here and will get us to a building commissioner, not a inspector. And we have someone, and we have us that want to hire him, but we can't do it because we're handcuffed in our own system, which is really, to me, a huge highlight of why we have to consider 2 things. We have to consider near-term, short-term, do we reclassify some positions to get the business moving, to put them in the right pay grade? Or do we consider a wholesale add to the scale, which we're told needs a special town meeting? So we have an additional new letter, not changing the way the grid works that we've adopted over time, keeping it exactly the same, operationally exactly the same, but saying we need an additional letter. So that way we can classify positions where they belong and then have the liberty to place people within within the scale, that we're not saying, well, we could get you in here, but we have to be at the highest step to do it. It gives us room to breathe and operate the business appropriately. And right now we're kind of in gridlock. So we have to choose a path. And it's probably going to be a Heiser path, to be honest, because we have to move.
Yeah, and.
Out of order, out of order.
Yeah, all right.
All right, so hold on one second here. I've been waiting patiently. So to your point on the treasurer collector position, is it an option to split? Absolutely. But when we went into posting for that position, you can go right on the Massachusetts Treasurer Collectors Association's website, and they do a salary study every single year. And you can go in and you can look at what our salary is compared to what's out there. They give you all sorts of metrics to look at: length of employment, the town, annual budget, so on and so forth. When I looked at and placed Clinton on that, the highest point of our salary barely scratches the average for the entire state. So to consider splitting a position when we really haven't done our due diligence on trying to put out a competitive offer, I think that's a little further down the road in the conversation. So if we exhaust option, if we can make the salary competitive for what the market is, and we can attract quality candidates, perfect. If we can't, then a plan B. But I don't think, as was mentioned earlier with the consultant said exactly what's going to happen. You have people who are hunters and you have people who are just trappers. And anybody can go out and just post a position and have all sorts of, you can have 60 applicants come in and you're not going to find one person who's qualified because of the salary. So until that's fixed, I don't think, we should really entertain splitting those.
So that was a polite way of saying you didn't like my idea.
No.
Thanks, man.
A couple more steps in between. them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I walked away feeling good.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So most of the positions that we're talking about are going to need a grid reclassification, which is going to require special town meeting, right? Most of the positions.
Nope.
If you add a grid,
If you add one.
something. We can move them
We
around.
could-
all we want.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
What, we need something to get approved at special town meeting.
No.
No.
Add another letter to the grid,
I mean, I think,
to the.
yeah, and I think
You change
looking
the
at
grid.
it, there does appear to be kind of a gap in those top grid bands, but that would be,
I thought, Matt, I thought you were saying that like
Ed,
we're the
So
grid.
2 things. We could, based upon the advisement of legal counsel, we could take the jobs that are open that we don't think fit the market, and we could reclassify every one of those positions right now.
But
No,
you said-
no special town meeting needed. We could reclassify.
But you said it's like a $30,000
No,
jump.
no.
No?
We could reclassify. What I'm saying is, if we were to say, add a letter to the grid, the same exact pay scale that already exists, we would add a letter and then reclassify the positions where they should be moving forward. That this is what we're being told requires special town meeting, because we can't fundamentally change what was already voted on. We can move anybody we want, however we want within the grid, But that's a short-term fix for a long-term, like we want to fix it forever so people can do what they need to do, but in the crunch that we're in, we can reclassify whatever positions are open and try to fix this short-term.
That's right.
And that's what Bob suggested.
Exactly. So the building inspector, if we wanted to move that one up,
Okay.
then, when it comes time for town meeting and we want to add that level to fit him in, it will either get voted in, but if it doesn't get voted, then we're gonna have a lot of upheaval.
Yeah.
Because people are gonna be looking.
And on that note, I think in all of this, we can all agree that we probably need a new grid, fine, for town meeting this year. I didn't feel great about the way the last grid vote went. So I think another purpose of us all getting together and talking about it today is to just make sure we know how we're gonna go about looking at this grid, making proposals, what data are we gonna have, so that we can all collectively show up at town meeting and support a new grid, not like the last one.
Are you're saying back in 2022, the way that was?
Yeah.
presented? I mean, that's where the hole in that grid in hindsight was the steps where these positions would be filled in at. There's a $30,000 jump between one letter. So it's like you either are overgrading a position or you're going to continue under.
So,
We're not gonna let that happen again.
right, and the key is you have to have updated job descriptions to get any type of grid that's gonna be realistic.
So would everyone here be open to that hybrid, maybe like reclassifying roles for now and then looking at the grid for the next town meeting?
Yeah, right. Do you have any color you want to add here? While we're talking about it.
Maybe too much.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've made some points to me that I think are valuable to, like in terms of maybe like what our next steps might be, like, or helping us kind of determine like which needs to go first, or what would your professional recommendation be? Oh, sorry. There's a mic over here. I don't know. No one wants to be.
I mean, we have 2 months if you both want to sit. and
Yeah.
Be part of the meeting. or-
For everyone who hasn't had a chance, to meet, Gary, he is our new human resources manager.
Hi, everyone. So to answer your question, I think that in order for us to move forward, we have to understand what the classifications and the functions of the positions are. Right now, as it stands, the classifications are inconsistent. We have directors that are in different levels. We have admins in different levels and no justification behind them. I personally find the report that we received from the call center a little bit convoluted. So I don't really, I can't follow it, not having been here to figure out how this justification was made. If we're going to look at changing salary bands, I would definitely look through any loopholes that we can to post these positions, including advertising a position mid-band on one letter to the other half of the other one, and then working on reclassifying it once we get a potential offer out there, just to kind of get us going in the meantime, or advertising a position on the high end of a pay range. As we work to reclassify, we need to look at what the classification is, and this actually does help us also in reporting to the government later on, and the functions of the role. So how far are they from the top reporting step? How far are they from the town administrator? That'll help us determine whether they're an executive manager, a manager, someone falling under the professional designation, or even admin support.
What's the requirement, like the state requirement for posting a job for like a salary range? You have to post a salary range, I assume?
You do. It's good practice to post a salary range. You attract a lot more applicants that way, whether you like them or not. I would always recommend posting a salary.
And the town has discretion over that range. So in your example, if we don't quite have the classification figured out, we could post a range that's not necessarily like the min of one letter to the max of that same letter. We can kind of be fungible with the ranges that we post.
I think if we're all in agreement,
Yeah,
I think we can try to figure something out
okay.
to that effect. If it's, I mean, that's the loophole I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So the point I was getting at is that with the exception of the town administrator role, all these other roles require some reclassification, possibly special town meeting in the future, right? But we think we have the authority. But it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought town council told us that the town administrator position is kind of out of this.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So knowing that, is there any possibility that at this meeting, we can at least get a path forward forged for the town administrator? Since it seems like an easier, I think the only people that have to be involved in that discussion are in this meeting right now. So I don't know if there's a possibility that we could at least get the town administrator salary issue squared away at this meeting. I still want to address the other ones, but it just seems like that one has an easier path. And the sooner we can kind of get a path forged in that search, the better for us, because we are kind of up against it. And I still want to work on these other positions too, but I just don't know if it's possible to kind of focus on the town administrator salary issue first, since that has a kind of an easier path to completion, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my research has been anecdotal on what that might be. So I don't know if I'm prepared to say what it should be. I mean, I have a range, but that is, like I said, just based on kind of what is in the marketplace currently. It's not based on any data or, yeah.
So I don't want to get like jump ahead on this, but so where the select board had voted at our last meeting to submit for RFPs for that position, does the funding from that come from finance committee? Or where would the funding, because in the past, I remember we needed approval for something, but I'm not.
Right, yeah, so this Friday, there will be an ad in the paper for an RFP to recruit a firm to help with the search. Currently, that funding for that wouldn't be supported by the current budget, it would be more than what we would have. So we need to put a finance committee transfer into the board to ask if they would use their funds to give to the selectmen to do that search. But then beyond that, I think the chair is mentioning, then looking at the salary is then getting support from the finance committee that in the upcoming budget, that line item will dramatically increase for that town administrator position for the new fiscal year. So making sure that everybody is okay with that so that they can go out and recruit and make an offer to somebody at that market range.
And so the reason why I asked that, just like Ed had mentioned, if we can secure a consultant and then that consultant is a part of making a recommendation on a salary range, then wouldn't that kind of be?
Sure, so it certainly would help if they could bring that data to help justify them, it absolutely. So I think at the next week's select board meeting, you can vote on a finance transfer and then ask the finance committee to approve that. So as you're selecting the firm, you can go through getting the funding and then you can select the firm, and you're right, have them bring the market data to the board to show what is needed for the position. Yeah.
And I think the number was roughly ballpark, like $14,000 is like what.
Right, for the fee,
Yes.
for the firm, improvement firm fee. So that's what they support from the finance committee.
Is that something that the finance committee would be open to considering?
You say $14,000.
I mean, I would say, yeah,
Study.
we've done this before, so
Mhm.
we would just
So
take it
try
from
and find a new.
the reserve transfer.
Because when we set the timeline, I think we were kind of looking at like 3 weeks from the time it was posted, and then reviewing the applicants, selecting the person, so or selecting the company, so, it- you know, but maybe within the next few weeks, if it's something like, you know, if the select, board then it would have to go to the finance committee. And hopefully.
So I can just keep track on how, like where it is in the process so that possibly if everyone is, you could schedule me to discuss it.
Yep.
At like the timeframe which
Yep.
we would need to, but we can make that vote happen at our next meeting
Okay.
in preparation for that, so. I don't even want to say kind of ballpark what I think the salary might be, but. Yeah.
And then in terms of like reclassifying the other positions, we'll leave it to personnel board, HR, to
Yeah.
kind of work that out
Yeah.
and go
Same,
from there.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, we really need those positions right now, so we'll probably look to reclassify
Mhm.
those positions with the existing, and then work with Ray in getting together some salary studies will support Ray in that.
Do you know if other towns, so we, our salary grid goes to town meeting, obviously, I don't know if we post it anywhere. Do we have like access to other towns' salary grids?
We ask for them.
Yeah.
Some of them post them a lot. You'll find a lot of union schedules out there.
Yeah.
The non-union ones, they're not always out there. They're right now. Everyone is in their budget season, so we're getting requests to participate in salary surveys. So
Okay.
Hot topic. Okay, is there anything else that we need to discuss? So we'll vote for the consultant at our next meeting, and then I'll loop in the FinCom chair for timeframe. And then your board can discuss whether or not you want to grant that transfer. And then probably we'll have to discuss the salary changes to that off-grid position. And then your board can work in conjunction with human resources to
Yeah.
maybe make those, I guess, pull the data together that might inform some changes to the salary grid or determine whether that's needed, necessary, I want to assume, but all things pointing to maybe a change need to happen, so.
Ray and Michael, do we know if the candidate that wanted the building commissioner job is still interested in the job? If we can figure out a way on our board to, like, with Ray, either reclassify it, figure out the pay structure, like, is that candidate still like, I want that job? Or are we
We'd
back
have
to
to
scratch?
reach out and ask. I haven't heard, no, but I haven't spoke with them recently either until we kind of figured out that path forward. Yeah.
So we
we
find
can-
people is
we
always the
can,
toughest part. So if the $10,000
Right.
delta is the hiccup, then maybe that might be an action item we should consider. Or reach out to say, is this still something you're interested in? We clearly liked you. You clearly thought it was a good idea. Is this the gap that we're thinking about? And how does this board work with everybody else to make sure we can define that position how we have to make sure we can have them?
Sure, we can do
We
that.
wanted to check off the list anyway.
Yeah.
Any other questions or anything? Anything else?
I just want to thank everybody for coming and understanding what we're up against and keeping an open mind through the process. It's refreshing.
Yeah, thanks for letting us take your meeting.
I know.
No, this is good.
a big
Thank
trash
you.
in New
I
England.
think everybody's on the same page, which is.
Yeah.
Should share
I
it.
think so too. All right, do we adjourn this
And to adjourn?
meeting?
Second.
Everybody except the personnel board.
Yeah,
Do that.
right.
You all keep going.
Excuse me, maybe you could start the meeting today?
There we go. We want to go through the. Right.